We're going to go over this sheet, and this would be, the front is the same for Group A and B. So if you are in Group B, I probably sent you to this video if you needed to see this part. The back specifically is just Group A, and I'll make a separate video for Group B's video, for Group B's worksheet on the back. So let's just go over a few of these problems just to give you an idea of what you're supposed to be doing. It may take a little longer than normal, but sort of check your stuff, make sure you know what you're doing, and if you feel like you can do it on your own, just do it on your own, and you don't need to watch the rest. So the first thing I notice here is it's addition. So I look at my signs, they're different. I know when the signs are different, I need to subtract. So I'm going to go ahead and write out a subtraction problem. Let me zoom in. More here. I think I'd be, sorry, still getting used to this. That's a little better. All right. So we're going to write out 2/3 minus 1/4. Now, if I can't tell which number is bigger, because we know we subtract and take the sign of the bigger number, I can wait until I found a common denominator, and then it's easy to tell which one's bigger. So the smallest number that 3 and 4 both go into is 12. So I'm going to write that as my denominator. Both 3 and 4 can multiply to equal 12, and that's the smallest number they can both multiply to equal. Well, first thing I need to do is, well, what did I do to 3 to get 12? Well, I multiplied by 4. Well, with fractions, to keep them equivalent, we have to come up to the top and do the same thing up top as well. 2 times 4 is 8. Basically, what you do to the bottom, you do to the top, and it keeps the fraction equivalent. We do the same thing down here. What times 4 makes 12? Well, 4 times 3. So we do the same thing up here, and we get 3. So we have 8/12 minus 3/12, which equals 5/12. So it's 5/12. And then we always got to check for our sign. It looks like the 2/3 was negative, so that was the negative number. And 8/12 is bigger, so this was bigger. So that should be negative. So it equals negative 5/12, and that would be the answer. And I know that I may have gone too fast for some of you. Just please rewind, watch the video again. If you have any questions, just log on to Edmodo, type in your questions. Someone else may understand what you sort of missed, or if not, it gives me something that I know I need to talk with you guys about tomorrow. Let's go on to number 6. The one thing we've learned this year is really subtraction is something we don't do anymore. Instead of subtracting, we add. And we change every subtraction problem to an addition problem. But we can't do just that. You never change just one thing. If we change this, we have to come here and make this its opposite as well. So what's the opposite of negative 1/3? Positive 1/3. So the real problem that we're going to be doing at this point is negative 5/4 plus 1/3, because we changed it to adding its opposite. First thing I notice here is the signs are different. So just like before, when the signs were different, we subtracted. So we do that here too. Just like before, the smallest thing 4 and 3 both go into is 12, so that's the least common denominator. 4 times 3, so we have to do the same thing up top, and it would be 15. 3 times 4, so we do the same thing at top, and that would be 4. They're different, so once again we subtract. 15 minus 4 is 11.
Teachers, please excuse this interruption.
11/12.
I need all volleyball players.
All right, sorry about that interruption. So we have 11/12, and this should be an equals 11/12. And it looks like the 15/12 is bigger than 4, so let's look at the 5/4. 5/4 is negative, so we're going to go ahead and throw in a negative next to that. So it should be negative 11/12. All right, moving on. Let's do a couple more. Like I said, I want to really get you hopefully prepared to do this. Now in this one I noticed it's addition, so I don't need to change. We only change if there's a minus sign between them, as in this case. There was a minus sign, so we change it. So we just leave it just how it is. And I'm going to look and ask myself, are the signs the same or are they different? Well, in this case, they're the same. They're both negatives. So when they're the same, we know that we add. So we're going to do that. Notice that 3 and 4 use the denominators a lot, and I think they did that in this sheet just to make it easier to get started with this, since it's so complicated with the negatives for most people. So you're going to have a lot of 12s as your denominators. That should make it a little easier. The smallest thing 3 and 4 both go into, once again, is 12. 3 times 4 is 12, so we multiply by 4 up top and get 16. 4 times 3, so we multiply by 3 up top and get 9. Now they're the same sign this time, so the other times we subtracted, this time we're going to need to add because they're the same sign, and that would be 25. And since we add and keep the sign, if they're the same, we're going to keep that negative. And if you want to convert it, we're going to be doing that more of that later, but we know that 12 goes into 25 2 times. There's 1 left over because 12 times 2 is 24, and we won 12. Really, both of those answers are fine. If you don't know how to convert, you could just leave them improper. We'll work on converting more later. Let's move on. I did number 9 in class, so you've seen number 9, you took notes on that, so you should be good with number 9. So let's move on to number 10. First thing I notice is it's subtraction, so I'm going to change it to addition. And the opposite of negative is a positive. So I notice I have 7/3 plus, so negative 7/3 plus 75/100. And like I told you in class, you have the option, you could change this to a decimal or you could change that to a fraction. So just because we're doing fractions right now for the most part, I'm going to change this to a fraction. Neither way, since it didn't say, either way is fine. Remember, we take that number, we put it on top, just like we did in the warm-up today. And then since it's 75/100, we put a 100. And the real shortcut to get that, if you're unsure, is it's 75. The denominator always has a 1. And since there are 2 numbers, we put 2 zeros. And to make it easier, since 75/100 is such a big number, what I would do is, I'll just go ahead and reduce that. Negative 7/3 plus, let's see, 25 goes into both of those. So if I divide by 25 here and at the bottom, we get, let's see, 75 divided by 25 is 3, 100 divided by 25 is 4. And now we'll do just like we did before. Signs are different, so we subtract 7/3 minus 3/4. And you'll find a common denominator, and then you'll have your answer. 7/3 is bigger, so your answer should be negative. So you're going to have a negative fraction here. I'll let you go to finish that just because we're going to run out of recording time and I won't be able to finish all the problems that I wanted to go over. Let's talk about this one here. So when you're doing these, the best thing to do whenever it's repeating, we know that it's going to be 3, 3, 3. It's really hard to add that. So what we're going to do instead is we're just going to go ahead and round. Look at the next number. Since it's less than 5, we'll round it to 0.3. So one more time, what we did was we just rounded this off since it was repeating, and we're just going to put 0.3. Now we know from yesterday's video that to add 2 decimals, you line up the decimals. Only, let's flip that, because we had one more thing to talk about. I'm going to put the biggest number on top, or the number with absolute value. Let's make sure we actually do add. It says add, but look here, the signs are different. One's negative, one's positive. So we're actually going to subtract because the signs are different. So 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 minus nothing is 1. So it'd be 1.1. And the biggest number is positive, so it's positive 1.1. On the back of your sheet, and this were group B, if your back was different, so you do not have these problems, so you stop watching at this point, go to something else. So the back, we're going to do order of operations. We know we'll start with parentheses, then exponents, multiply, divide left to right, and then add, subtract left to right. So in this problem, we have parentheses, so we're going to start with that. 8 minus 2 is 6. I'm talking a little faster here because I have a 15-minute time limit. I'm not sure how close I am to that. And we copy everything else down. We don't have any exponents. We do have multiplication and division, which is 7 times 7, which is 49. And then we add, subtract. So 49 minus 6 is 43. Let's go ahead and do this one. Since we have multiple operations in the parentheses, we just use order of operations. Now we know, within the parentheses, I mean. We know we add, subtract left to right, so we're going to go ahead and start with our addition since it comes first. That's 7. 7 minus 6 is 1. 2 plus a negative 1, or 2 minus 1 is 1, and then we're done. So every one of these order of operations problems should be like sort of like that triangle type design. And let me just show you, just to make sure you've noticed a couple of things. All right, on this website, if you just are drawing a blank on some of these fractions, here's a place you can look. If you look at classroom resources, adding and subtracting fractions, here's a video that just goes over the very basics. So that's something you can look at. There's also a video here on order of operations if you get to that and you're still doubting, because I did go kind of fast, but there's a video here that explains it a little better. And then you also have our integer rules. So use those tools as well if you run into any roadblocks as you're working on these.